Welcome to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I'm Paige, the nervous system coach, neurodivergent mom of four, former educator, and author of Emotional Fire Drills. I'm on a mission to help us all learn to feel safe in our bodies so we can finally unlearn what no longer serves us, to question everything so we can finally grow together. This is our safe place to unlearn, question, and get real AF about the journey to who we are underneath all that noise. It's okay to trip along the way, as long as we keep moving forward together. Let's trip. In today's episode, we dive deep into the concept of unlearning and how it's been driving force in Christina Schmidt's life and my own. She is the creator of Free2Be Me Speech Therapy, and her powerful story behind why she had to create Free2Be Me to escape burnout and workplace trauma. And we also get into some truly uncomfortable truths about the systemic issues in our education system. This is a conversation about identity, justice, and courage it takes to build a world where everyone has a voice. I'm so honored to have her here. So let's get into it. And remember, if this or any of the episodes you listen to invoke an emotion of I'm ready to start unlearning this in myself or really get clear on where I stand on this issue or these beliefs, then head over to the episode called the Mini Unlearning Guide and you do your own little mini unlearning first steps. And if you have any questions or have any thoughts that you'd like to share with Christina and I, drop them in the comments because we'd love to have you be a part of this conversation as well. I hope you enjoy this episode, and if you want to reach out to Christina or myself, contacts are below in the show notes. Enjoy. All right. Welcome back to the Paige Trippin' Podcast. I have the honor of being joined by Christina Schmidt. Her pronouns are she, her, and she is a Black African-American, Australian, multicultural, and multidialectal, all ADHD, I say that wrong, woman who proudly embraces her identity across all facets of her work and advocacy. As the founder of Free2Be Me Speech Therapy, she provides neuroaffirming support to pediatric and adult clients in ways that honor each person's unique communication needs, strengths, and ways of being. Her approach is transformative, grounded in deep presence, cultural integrity, and living experience. Whether she's guiding fellow speech pathologists, connecting meaningfully in client sessions, or presenting to captivated audience around the world, she weaves together her personal and professional experience to create a resonant, lasting impact. Christina lives, works, plays, and creates in the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people in Narm. We just had a conversation about this in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Her work is rooted in justice, joy, and ongoing commitment to amplifying the diverse voices and stories, always with the belief that we all deserve to be seen, heard, and free to be. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Paige.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a bit surreal in a way, like listening to about myself, but also so affirming. I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, that that is me.
Yes, it's my favorite way to welcome guests. I have a lot of people say the same thing, like, I actually never hear it out loud. And
Yeah,
we need to celebrate your journey because it's a beautiful one.
absolutely. I feel like there's so many times that I've wanted to like shrink myself
Mm-hmm.
or if people compliment me, like it feeling really uncomfortable and immediately wanting to, you know, just put it back or like send it somewhere else but myself. But I'm starting to really embrace, that's been a part of my entire journey of understanding who I am, like fundamentally who I am, and that it is okay to recognize, acknowledge, and celebrate myself. And so, thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
that. And also, um, before this, we were chatting about, you're asking me and letting me know the value that you place on identity
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to further understand, like deepen your understanding of identity, putting the time and effort into to research like Warren Jury.
Yeah.
You're unfamiliar with that, with pronouncing that word. It's a
Correct.
group of 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 people.
Hmm.
And it goes beyond that as well. And before I was like, that this could be a part of the podcast, because this is the whole unlearning journey, relearning journey in real life. And
Yes.
yeah, and then we're talking about where you live. And it's like, wow, the that sounds to me like it could be, a Native American, like traditional um name for the land that you're on. And maybe that could lead you into figuring out like who the traditional owners of the land that you're living on too. So um yeah, we come at things, with the best intention. And a lot of times it is the impact over intention. Sometimes we can come in things with great intention, but it just doesn't
Yes.
land. But I'm not attributing that to Warren Jerry at all. But it's just, yeah, a really great way of highlighting um what I am such a strong advocate for. And you know there's so many facets. Everything about identity is sacred. And I've lived in Australia for 11 and a half years now. So I've come to learn, and I'm still learning, what it means to give the the welcome to country, like the respect of the lands that we are on, because sovereignty was never ceded here
Yeah.
in Australia. And really honoring the people who have been here for so long, and the traditions that they hold, and the knowledge that they have for the land and the sea and beyond the stars, everything,
Yeah.
that comprises, you know, what makes up their sacred culture,
Hmm.
spiritual, everything. So yeah, it is very much, a privilege to come and, live on lands that are unceded, really recognizing that, deeply holding that, and reminding people who think, otherwise. So
Yeah.
yeah, it really is about being seen and heard, and um, yeah, believed and felt and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so as we move into this, like you said about identity, language and speech is so deeply ingrained in everything we do. And I've been on this unlearning journey that is multifaceted. And like, there's so much to unlearn that as I'm learning how to communicate better, which is still a very big work in progress because I feel like I wasn't meant to be heard in my life. So I spent a lot of time alone in my room or just being loud and obnoxious in ways that were rooted in fear and trauma of not being heard. I'm unlearning that. And so as we move into this, you are a speech pathologist and you created Free2Be Me Speech Therapy. And I love the title of this beautiful therapy practice. It was
Thank
really,
you.
that's what really caught my eye when you recommended it to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this. And I clicked on it. And so, can you tell us a bit more about the mission that you've created
Mhm.
and where this all began for you in I know that you have a lot of unlearning in your aspect of being seen and heard in the world. And so if you can share what led you to this practice and creating such a beautiful mission of helping people to unlearn and, you know, try a new way.
Yeah. Well, my my how Free to Be Me came about was because I needed to be free to be me. I was just going through cycles of burnout, and as well as workplace trauma. And I really, like, I remember speaking to with my psychologist and really recognizing, like, knowing that I was in a loop and I just didn't know how to get out, or I knew what I needed, but I just didn't know, like, how or when, and it didn't seem possible. Um, I I think it just finally hit a point for me that I no longer was going to be exploited for my skills, like who I am. And I just remember, working for other people, giving so much, and by exploited, that being taken advantage of, giving so much of myself. And that was because, I want to help support people, and beyond sometimes the traditional ways of therapy,
Mm.
where it's okay, we've got 45 minutes together, and whatever we don't, do or talk about in that time, whatever, doesn't matter because I'm on a strict schedule and we've got to
Yeah.
move on. And sure, there are boundaries that need to be kept, um, you know, but just for example, like sometimes a client, someone that I'm supporting, like they're not ready to finish right on that 45 minutes. And maybe they just need that extra minute. And, knowing that that's okay, as long as, it doesn't hinder me and prevent me from, making it to my next client or my next meeting or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, like, I started to see those nuances and not ignore them. And yeah, I mean, getting to that point that I just went, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Um, I something had to give, because I knew a lot of like the ruminating and the external processing that I was doing through my rants of like, this just isn't working for me. Um, I'm being expected to do, things that are unethical. That goes beyond my values.
Yeah.
And yeah, I knew it was something to do with work that needed to change, and not something with like my personal life, but it was interfering with my personal life. Like I was in burnout. So I made like the really scary decision to quit and to start up something on my own. And yeah, that's a hard decision to make.
It
And
really is.
yeah, especially I didn't have any other employment at that time, where, I just moved into a house, like mortgage. We're
Yeah.
we're renovating our house ourselves. Well, actually credit to my husband who's able to do a lot of the renovation work.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily the ideal time to do it, but my well-being and safety
Mhm.
were needing to be prioritized at that time. And my husband created, really great support for me by just going, yeah, okay.
That's so nice. You don't hear that often, right? It's constantly
mm,
a fight
like,
between spouses sometimes about
yeah,
finances because it's a scary unlearning journey as
it
well.
is. It is. He believed in me, he encouraged me. And of course there was that real, well, financially wise, like we probably have about 2 months buffer here.
Yeah.
Um, but I was so motivated, by so many things I had been seeing, and knowing what I have to offer the world. And just, you know, it started with making my website and getting creative with that, like following that dopamine and, just the joy I get from doing things like that and starting to get
Yeah.
in, back into Canva and creating things, for Instagram and logo, all of that, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I just knew that if I kind of set that as this is how I'm starting out, and Free to Be Me just came, popped in my head. I went, oh, it rhymes as well. And the essence of that, like it's
Yeah.
just so holistically, like free to be me, free to be you, free to be us.
Yeah.
It's all there. So I want that for the people that I'm supporting. So if I'm holding that as a big value and a part of my mission, then that's, what I'm going to bring into the
Yeah.
services that I offer and that I provide, and how I want to support others in this world.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love that. When I honestly, the name really gave, I was like, "Ooh, I love this." It's like very, well, you said it's very all-encompassing of what you bring to the
Yeah.
world. And it just represents so much on, like, even your bio. Like when you read the bio, I'm like, it's very straight to the mission, right? It's like
Yeah.
allowing people to just be all aspects of themselves, and really beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Breaking
Uh,
free. Breaking
exactly.
free. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I just, I've like got alphabet in my
Yeah.
head.
I love it.
Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I cry when I watch yeah, especially the movie. Like I've seen the stage production, but
Yeah.
it's the movie, and I think it's seeing Elphaba as being a Black woman, and that breaking free, like, oh, that just hits. But and that like that feeling that I get, I'm like, there it is.
And as you were saying that, I feel chills. I'm like, you're right. It's really, you as you watch this as an adult, like when you think of like when you're a little kid and you're watching these shows, it's like all over your head. But as you watch things as an adult, my daughters are always like, "You think too much, mom," and I'm like, "It's so beautiful." And like you're crying. They're like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
the
can't
ugly
watch
cry,
movies
and I'm
with
like,
you."
"Oh, just I'm just, yeah, let that ugly cry come out." Because,
Exactly.
Paige, I feel like it's what you're saying, like like I'm very much connected with my inner child, and I used to
Yeah.
like probably be more separate from her, and I think just kind of forgotten and sometimes ignored,
Mm.
because, I put myself back to when I was younger, and felt as though I wasn't to be heard or couldn't be heard. And I'm not just saying like, oh, that's, from family. No, no. I was very much supported by my parents, actually, like
Yeah.
in being heard. And probably to the point sometimes my mom would kind of look at me and be like, like, yeah, I think her values of growing up were very much like children are to be um seen and not heard. And she raised me differently, but she would still have that conflict. And I'd be like,
Hmm.
but mom, you raised me. Like you raised me to be this way.
Yeah.
But it's more like probably external sources that I
Yeah.
felt and knew, at times like I wasn't to be heard. So I'm really breaking free of that and knowing
Yeah.
like I am here for a reason. I have so many things that I need to say, and that, will be heard. I will be heard.
Yeah.
I'm to be valued. I value myself. And I want to instill, like, I want to support other people to know that as well. Like we all have a story, and
Yeah.
they may not be as like, you know, yeah, like beautiful as, like, I don't know, I feel like we kind of want to compare each other's stories and stuff, but like get rid of that idea and just know
Yeah.
that like we all have a story that deserves to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're talking about your mom, I laughed a little because I was like, I'm the same way. And as I think I gave you some information about me, and but I do a lot of like nervous system work. That's what my learning journey started with, is learning how
Yeah.
to calm myself because my children triggered a lot, and I didn't know I was a neurodivergent woman when I had
Yeah.
them. So I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was having
Mm.
meltdowns and I didn't know what they were.
That's
And
scary.
it's very scary. And so I didn't feel like I had a lot of help. So I was just trying to figure out how not to be the mom who yells. But as you were talking about your mom,
Mm.
a lot of times my kids will say things and I'm triggered. My nervous system's like, I wasn't allowed to do that. And so my body just naturally
Yeah.
reacts. And then I'm like, okay. And then they're like, remember you told us this. And I was like, I know. I still need a minute. I was still, I'm still unlearning. I'm still like, it's in me
Yeah.
still. But I have that moment of like calmness, and really it's true to what you said. Everyone, their nervous system, no matter how they respond to the world, just want to be heard, loved, and seen, and know that they're
Yeah.
not failing at life. And the fear of all of those encompassed, I feel like, is the deep root of why so many problems in our world exist, because everyone just wants to find their place. But if we just constantly check our ego and sit with that for a minute before we move through the world, we realize we all want the same thing at the end of the day. And there's a space for all of us. This world is so massively huge, and there's a space where everybody can be seen, loved, and heard, as long as we're not hurting people in the process of that and being
Yeah.
mindful of that, and
Yeah.
I love how
And
you put that.
thanks. And in saying that, taking up space, creating
Yeah,
space, taking up space, um, it's not always easy to
correct.
do. And yeah, and I just wanted to also go back to what a wonderful way that you're able to show your children um, that they have a part in, your unlearning journey.
Yeah.
Not
They're
that
my
it's
biggest
their
teachers.
responsibility, not that it's their
Exactly.
responsibility, but that,
100%.
they can remind you
Hmm.
in, things that, hey mom, like you you told us this, or you showed
Yeah.
us this, and for you to show, oh yeah, that, yes, and I'm still learning,
Yeah.
because things aren't perfect.
Exactly.
Like they're really, like, life is not perfect. We're not going to,
Hmm.
that to me, I feel like defines the unlearning journey. Like, we're
Yes.
constantly on that journey. We don't just get to a peak and then, okay, I've made it, done. No, we're
Exactly.
not. We're like, it's still, it's happening.
Yeah.
So
We're
yeah.
always tripping, as long as I always say, and my quotes are, as
Yeah.
long as we trip forward, like keep
Yeah.
moving forward. Trips are good. We learn from all the mess-ups, and that's why erasers were created, like
I
we
love
make
the pun.
mistakes.
I
Yeah.
love the pun with trip. I love
I love play with
metaphors.
words. I do too.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
metaphors,
it's so fun.
alliteration, rhymes. Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's
Yes.
fun. It just like the
That's how I
brain.
always learned. Like, it was just, if I couldn't make something up in my mind to see it, I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't master it. So if I couldn't figure out a fun way to do it, I never got it right on a test. I was always like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
always struggled with that for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
to me, it just like tickles the auditory nerve just
a
right.
hundred
It's like
percent.
it just gives me the glimmers. It's like, oh, yes, that's
Yeah,
nice.
it's super fun. It's
Yeah.
my students, I taught reading for like a short period of time, and I always struggled with reading. So I love to read, but I struggled with like the actual test
Yeah.
stuff. So I used to,
Yeah.
one of my favorite things I used to, when I would teach onomatopoeias, which is the sound a word makes, I'd say I'm gonna pia with the onomatopoeia, and they'd be like, what? I'm like, P makes a sound when you go. They're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it's fun. Now you'll
I
never
love
forget
that.
it. And so it's just a little fun way the brain works. So you gotta be able to
Yeah.
connect to something.
Totally connection, right?
Yes. And
Connection.
that's where, which segues great into something I was going to ask you, with it comes to the educational world and learning. Obviously, our world is so deeply centered around white centric learning, right? And
Mm,
I did like a little research with in anthropology, and there's over
yeah.
7,000 languages and 38,000 3,800, sorry, 7,000, over
Mhm.
7,000 and over 3,800 um, different cultures, and that is greatly underestimated, they say. And so,
Yes,
yet
that are
our,
known and recorded. Yeah.
exactly, and so our education system being so centered on just a small portion of the world is
Mm.
so demeaning to me. And I look at it and I'm like, how are we expecting children to thrive? How are we including people in the learning when we all are supposed to be, having access to education? How can children learn if they're not seen or identified or can make connections to what they're learning? And you talk about your work in schools, communities, and families. What are you seeing as one of the biggest obstacles in this area as you do work within schools and helping people learn when it comes to communication?
That's one of the biggest things I see. And it's, it's beyond just the academia,
Mm-hmm.
education world, is
Yeah.
that the system is working. And what I mean by the system, I mean, the overarching system.
Yeah.
And systemic racism, like it's 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 seeped its ways in the cracks, in the, however big or small they are. It shows me that it's working.
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, I think even though I can see and I understand that, I know that it's not going to stop me from what I do and want to put
Yeah.
forth, because yeah, there's a lot of students, people that um get missed, are underrepresented. um Taking statistics uh in keeping statistics in mind, and yeah, bringing them into play. It's like there are so many people that are missed. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you take like a certain approach or technique and try to apply that to an entire group, well, you've you've missed, quite a few people that's not appropriate for, it's not applicable to, or
Mm-hmm.
who weren't included in the first place when that approach or whatever it might be was developed.
Yeah.
And the evidence was put forth to say, well, this is the best evidence that we have to for this particular, maybe reading technique or whatever it might be. Knowing that, they're leaving room for the nuances. Like, I'm so big on that at the moment, because I think comfort wise, you know people, I think generally speaking, want to have something to rely on. It
Yeah.
brings us comfort, uh having predictability, familiarity, and just having something to grasp onto.
Yeah. For sure.
um and yeah, yet we still have students that aren't being included in, you know, what they have all the right to have access to as a part of their, yeah, educational rights.
Yeah.
Um and especially with schools, I hear a lot of the times like, uh, you know, the barriers being like we're not supported with the professional development that we're offered or provided, or we just don't have the time. And whilst those are very true, um how are we really going to be able to move forward with meeting the needs of, you know, children who aren't white, or children who aren't neurotypical or disabled, the
Hmm.
marginalized
Yeah,
students. How are we going to really meet their needs and their rights as students?
exactly. That's one of what you just said about a lot of what we hear in the education field. I don't have time or I'm not supported. I always like that was I was an educator for 5 years before I had kids, and
Mm,
I really quick, I don't know how to
yeah.
express this without expressing what happened. I was
Mm,
right out of college. I got a job through somebody I knew, and I was told I was going to be teaching one subject. I entered into the classroom not knowing what I was getting into. In the middle of the school year, it was January. I was placed in a bilingual classroom. I am not bilingual, and told I was teaching everything and that I would just figure it out. And instantly,
mm,
that's when I knew that's the first moment of my life where I really knew, like, wow, like this is illegal. I should not be in this classroom. And they're like,
mm,
it's okay. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. And I was like, okay. And by we, it meant me figure it out. Like
yeah.
50% of my class did not speak English. And I knew in that moment that no one was going to help them and that it was my responsibility to do that. And I like to tell educators, like when I hear people say that, I like to call them out and be like, you entered into education to help children learn. And that's not a job that you should take lightly. Like if that's a job that you're just saying it's a job, then it's not the job for you, because it is it's a job that should come with knowing that you're going to be doing more work than what the job description describes. And so I always like to say
Yeah.
too is like I took that moment to make myself go get my ESL endorsement. Within the next
Mm,
month, I was like, I didn't know what to do. I cried every day. I was like, I don't know, and I worked with students. I was like, hey, we're in this together. And so anybody who is open to like helping me communicate, I will give you extra credit on everything you do because you're working 10 times harder than I am. And I just didn't know how to do it. But as an educator, if you are listening to this, I want you to know, like, if you have time to scroll, if you have time to sit for hours doing things, like you have a moment to add a book to your day, right? To learn something new, to step outside your comfort zone, because these students are entering the classroom every day out of their comfort zone, trying to fit into a world that was not designed with them in mind at all. And it's our responsibility as educators to be open to learning. And how can we teach learning or unlearning if we're not willing to do so ourselves and be there with them and show them the process of learning? And it's something that really shook me to my core when I entered into this field of education, and I was like, the system is not here to help anybody. And I felt instantly, I was like, wow, I've been living in a bubble, and I'm like embarrassed almost to the point to admit a lot of the things that I feel like I've thought or experienced through my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I'm experiencing, how many people on such a wide scale are experiencing this, and are they actually doing anything to change it? And if everybody was to do even one little thing to change it, how much change could we actually create if we all just
yeah.
thought in that way, right? It's like, it's so scary to me to think that they put me in the, and even to this day, when you look up my record in Chicago public schools, I'm labeled as bilingual teacher, and I am not
Mm,
bilingual. And I never
mm.
even really knew that until I went to redo my certification, and I was
Right. And
like,
you saw what
oh my gosh, they literally labeled me as a bilingual teacher on my records. And I'm like,
yeah, wow.
mind blown to this day about that. And it put a bad taste in my mouth. And I really didn't know what, like all I did was just kept showing up and learning and
Yeah.
tried my best.
Yeah.
But it made me so sad, so sad. And
Mm,
multiple times I was told, just change their grade. And I was like, I will not change their grade, because if I continue to pass them on, they're going to drop out. I'm not going to
yeah.
do that. And then they would change the grade. And I was like, I cannot, like, I don't understand this. Like, you're just looking at children as numbers to get federal
Yeah.
funding for you, but you're not,
Let's not send them down the pipeline of,
yeah.
yeah, dare I say, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to connect this with like a bilingual student necessarily going into the prison pipeline. That's not what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
for
I
sure.
just think when we like I when we don't provide students with the supports that they're needing,
Hmm.
um, I think like literacy. So yeah, not just saying I'm not saying bilingual at all. I'm
Correct.
not trying
Yeah. It
to
was you're just
equate.
connecting to what I was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, passing students along without providing them the supports when, that's not like they they're not ready for getting that pass or whatever,
Yeah.
because they weren't provided with what they were needing, is an injustice to them.
Hmm.
And yeah, the whole, compliance um issue with schools, like I think it's like taking the easy way out, but also is carried what's been passed on like traditionally, that students
Yeah.
need to remain in their seats and they need to be quiet because
Mhm.
that's what's going to show that they're ready to learn. But that's not the case for
Correct.
everyone. For some students, yeah, that very well works for them
Yeah.
and that's what they're needing. But that's not the case for everyone, so it can't be applied to everyone. um I think of like the school that I entered yesterday, and this, I would say this is at least like the second, maybe third time that I've entered the school. And just next to the reception space, there was a staff member who I think works in like that front area. So I don't know what their role is, but they're talking to a student, and it was like out in the corridor in the hallway. Um, and I couldn't help but to be heard. Like it was happening next to me, but also it wasn't happening, in a room where it's just, that staff member and the student, or, it was out in the open. And
Yeah.
the staff member was saying, and I'm going to preface this by saying I came into like the middle of this. I did not hear everything, but what I did hear is, it just doesn't cut it to be, a few seconds late getting into the line as we're going back to the classroom. So the student was like being reprimanded. And yeah, I just, when I heard like a few seconds, I'm like, really? A few seconds? Unless it is an emergency and that student needs to be accounted for, right? There's a fire, there's someone that's unsafe in or near the school, um, another form of emergency, like a few seconds? Really?
Exactly.
Is this what this student is being reprimanded for? As if that staff member wasn't a few seconds late to starting her day at the school, right?
Right.
Like I just thought, okay. And then, it's like, oh, I see, there's a smile. See, yep, you can do it. Oh, you can do it. I just walked, past, and just like, why is time being spent?
Right. The
Why is
things
time
that
being
I
spent with
heard through
this
my,
student doing doing this out in the open?
yeah,
Uh yeah. Why is the responsibility placed on the student?
exactly.
Why aren't, their supports, environmentally, or, the adults that are, the educators that are, teaching the child, like not compliance, but like why is the responsibility placed on that child? Like
Exactly. Yeah. And
yeah.
it's very interesting as I kind of have been reflecting too about like on my education to become an educator. I was like, I didn't learn anything that I needed in that classroom until I was in that classroom and had to like, it's basically like I was given to the sharks and you're like, oh my gosh, either like figure it out or become a teacher who's like angry and yells all the time. And it's like, we're the entire educational field. I've like, it's my mission. I really want to do something. And I'm like, I gotta first figure out how to do it, like how to actually help make change. But there is no thought of the whole person, the whole child, the anything other than feeling like you got to teach to the test. You have to hit your numbers. Even like the way they grade teachers where we lived was based
Mm,
on reading and math scores. So if I was a science teacher, my scores depended on whether the reading teacher did well. And I'm like,
right.
how
Yeah.
does that measure growth of a child or whether I'm even doing my job or not, right? Like if a child is struggling, there's more than one reason why a child's struggling in reading.
Yeah.
This is not a way, like it's just all very numbers based and it's
Yeah.
really disheartening and and so a question I tend to ask is when there's so much, I feel like a lot of people are feeling hopeless in this time
Mm,
of like, there's nothing, what can I do? I'm just one person, but I feel like there's so
mm,
much somebody can do. And I know you talk a lot about neuroaffirming and connection-based approach. And so if somebody is trying to unlearn or just figure out where to begin when they're using this approach, is there you know, a book, like any resources that you would recommend for them to apply because it's not your job to one teach them, but it's their job to become more aware. I know in my last episode with Dr. Destiny Huff, we talk about neuroaffirming
yeah.
approaches, but
Yeah.
I the resources, I feel like I want to start to give some more resources because it's not others' jobs to do our work and tell us how to make change. It's our job to take action and learn. But I really think it's really important also too is like I feel a lot of people don't know what are really good resources and they're just like everyone's always on the internet. I'm like, you can't trust everything. So like
Mm,
really great resources for them to possibly even start looking into so that they can try to bring more of a change because it really does start with each one of us, not just the entire system, because we can't change a system that's so
yeah.
deeply rooted overnight. So it all starts with each of us taking a step
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. So I do want to get back to what you're saying, like starting out as a teacher and you feel like you're thrown in with the sharks and
Yeah,
relating that to starting out as a speechy, which is what we call speech pathologists in
I
Australia.
love that. I
Speechy,
didn't
you
know
always
that.
shorten things.
So cute.
Um, but first the resources, the starting point actually. The starting point is starting with ourselves, like individually. We need to be looking after our well-being, like put that oxygen mask on first. Like I'm going to use that
Yes.
metaphor here. You know, when you get on the plane and they're talking about during an emergency or if the oxygen becomes low, you pull that mask down for yourself and put it on first. Breathe
Yeah.
before you help others around you. um yeah, starting with yourself, checking in with yourself, you know, how is your well-being right now? Because, something I've been really checking in with myself about and really trying to uphold is that, well, knowing that I move in a very non-linear way. My
Hmm.
pacing of things needs to be different. That's also something I'm really happy that I've been able to incorporate and instill with Free2Be Me speech therapy is it's firstly it's about me. Because if I don't check in with myself, then
Yeah.
Free2Be Me is not happening.
Yeah.
It's not going to be sustainable. Ourselves, we're not going to be sustainable. Oh, I've got to keep pushing. And yeah, we do have a lot of pressures on
Yeah.
us, whether it's financially, family, that's real. Can't ignore that. But at the same time, we do have to really know, how am I doing right now? What is am I constantly in fight or flight or fawn or freeze? Like, where is my regulation at? Where's my energy at? Am I
Yeah.
just at a constant low? Right? Because if we're coming into if our work involves other people, if it involves like children and students, clients, how we can't support other people and their energy that they are needing to match, whatever activity that's expected, that you're doing.
Yeah.
um if we ourselves aren't regulated, right? Like a non-regulated person cannot support someone else's regulation.
No,
Like there's a mismatch, it's just not going to work. So it's
exactly.
starting there. And it's
Yeah.
really getting to, as an individual, asking, what are my needs? Are they being met? How can I better meet those needs? And it's not always just on us. Like
Yeah.
it is finding who our safe people are to co-regulate with. Is that going to involve some sort of like counseling, supervision, mentoring? Like it is okay to get assistance, to
Yeah.
get that help. You're mentioning like as a teacher and yeah, being thrown in with the sharks and what do you mean you want me to teach a bilingual classroom?
Yeah.
If you're a person that's wanting to learn more about neuroaffirming practice and care, um, it is about finding community because there's community all around us and knowing what community fits well for us, like our values and our needs and our preferences. Um, yeah, like building up the community that you're needing. Um, and yeah, it may not be like always directly around you, like in your city, your neighborhood. It could be digitally online,
Yeah, which has been
virtual.
so helpful for
Yeah.
commuting, having that community feel for people.
Yeah. Going about
Um,
it supported, I think, is a great way to start and continue. And, over time you might find that um, you can enter other spaces, like other communities. You just have to
yeah.
work out what your needs are. Um, resource wise, I think, and this is what comes to mind at the moment. Um, but in the way that I learn really well and who I often, resources that I often tend to share. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is just
Yeah.
what comes to my mind right now. So, M, is her last name Hammond? I feel like I've seen two last names, but anyways, M, who also goes by Nero Wild.
Okay.
So she's Aussie and she puts out a lot of resources that she creates, like she hand draws them.
Oh, wow.
And they're like infographics and sometimes almost a bit even like comics in a way, in a sense. And using a lot of I suppose like at times like metaphors to be able to relate with what we're looking at when it comes to neurodiversity and how, to make the shifts in thinking when we're supporting neurodivergent folk.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so Neuro Wild is one that I'll like shout out as resources that are helpful um and to purchase, right?
Yeah.
She has a teachers pay teachers.
I love that.
That's mainly, yeah, or you can follow her Facebook. Um yeah. And then um I'll also yeah, shout out Sandhya Menon, who's also Aussie.
I love it.
um and yeah, also M has a speech pathology background, and
Okay.
then Sandhya has a clinical psychology background. Um, and yeah, so Sandhya has a few books out, and um, the Brain Forest is one, the Rainbow Brain is another, and then a book that's just come out of hers is called My Body's Power Pack. Um, I think it's how to manage energy and stay in charge.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And yeah, regulation wise, understanding energy.
Yeah.
That one, I've just found like I've only had it for a couple of weeks now, but I've been introducing it to like all of my clients and sharing it with their teachers, and teachers been like, taking photos of it to be like,
Oh, I
yes. And
love that.
yeah, like how can I carry over use of the terms in the book, in the classroom?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, sharing it with like parents and carers, because I've really found it so helpful to break down, you know, the idea of everyone, we have energy. It's gonna be different from each other.
exactly.
Um, and learning about, what drains our power packs. Some drain faster and some drain slower. That's okay.
Yeah.
um, and learning what we need to be able to charge our power packs.
Hmm.
Is that going to be, and maybe that's through like the mutual or co-regulation with someone who is safe, we find safe.
Yeah.
Um, and it goes from there. And then there's a card deck that's coming out that accompanies that.
Oh, I
So
love
yes,
it.
so Sundia Minin has some really lovely resources, and I have a resource that is free on Teachers Pay Teachers. Um, and it's about um competency check, like where like just a starting point, and it gives some resources of to be able to yeah, it's all about cultural safety,
Okay.
and checking in, because we all, no matter what, have implicit internal biases,
Yeah.
and it's about knowing what they are, like getting to understand them. Because when we are interacting with the people around us and the world around us, like that
Hmm.
is like a crucial thing to know. Like
Yeah.
what am I coming, like what biases am I approaching this with?
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose like keeping that in check, like understanding and what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do with this. And
That's a
great,
beautiful resource.
where to next? Yeah. Um, Look, there are more that I could probably think of, like
Yeah.
yellow
You don't have to
ladybugs.
get them. You're so
Yellow
cute.
ladybugs is great. Their focus is
You
on
said yellow ladybugs?
yellow ladybugs,
Okay.
also an Aussie resource. I mean, there's a lot of Aussie resources I can think of at the moment because I live
I
in
love it.
Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah, their focus is on autistic girls, and
Hmm.
also gender diverse
Okay.
students. They have a lot of wonderful resources that are out. They've got a shop, to purchase both digital and hard copy.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave it there for now. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
there
you give
there
us
there
so
are a lot.
many. You're so sweet. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love how you approach that question. Because so many people are really quick to just give, like an answer of like what somebody can do. But you started again, which is so true to Free to Be Me speech, right? It's like free to be you. It starts with you, right? You have to be the person to take accountability for yourself, take care of yourself, and make sure you're good. Otherwise, you have nothing left to pour into other people
Yeah,
and make the difference. I really love that you started with that, and it's really really vital because it's true. If we're not regulated ourselves, we cannot take care of anybody else, and we show up from
yeah,
these spaces of dysregulation, and there's literally no logical thinking then, right? So it's
yeah.
really important to know
And
that.
just to add on to that, you know, a part of that check in with yourself, right? And not going past your capacity is,
Hmm.
if you are at that point, if you're in burnout or close to it, or you're not sure, but like things just aren't really feeling great at the moment. Um, yeah, maybe that is that time that you need to rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rest is a part of this, right?
Yeah.
We cannot be expected to take everything on. I think that's actually probably an expectation. We need to check in with ourselves if we're feeling like I gotta take everything on and I gotta do it right now. No.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that is like, what am I needing right now? Is it rest? Okay. How can I honor that?
Yeah.
Am I, needing that support? What sort of support am I needing? How can I get that support? Um, and yeah, so I just wanted to tie that in,
I love
that
it.
actions, part of that, it can just be rest. Rest is if that is what's needed, and are able to, please do honor that. And rest can look
Yeah.
different for different people. Sometimes
Correct.
rest for me is not just, sitting.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's going to the gym, like, because that I consider a form of my rest where I can kind of shut off my brain, but I'm still doing
Exactly.
something active with my body.
Yeah,
So
it
I'm not
gives you
like
that good input,
really
right?
thinking. Yeah. So yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And so your speech therapy practice is, I saw telehealth as well. Do you only work with
Mm.
people in Australia, or are you able to meet with people in other countries as well?
So, now if it's direct therapy work, it is only within Australia because I know with the US, like, you have to have different licenses across
Okay.
states. But I do provide like professional consultation.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I would say probably like that can be worldwide. But if it's like direct therapy, yeah,
It's
like
just through Australia.
it
Okay.
would be Australia. Yeah.
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 Cool.
But otherwise,
No,
like, I love
definitely.
connecting with people. I do provide like supervision, mentoring, yeah, and professional like consultation and um presentations, and yeah. So that, yeah, hopefully I've been able to, through what I'm sharing, that yes, I am a speech pathologist, but and there's so much that speech pathology can look like,
Yeah.
um and that I include, so it's multifaceted, I'm multifaceted, and it's not just like, "Okay, we're gonna work on our speech sounds. Okay, we're
Exactly.
gonna, you know, work on, what, like, working towards understanding our brains and what we're needing, as advocacy and all of that." Like, there's so much,
Yeah.
which I actually love. Like, I
Exactly.
love being able to, yeah, offer and provide that because, like, they're part of, my values and interests and all that. So, yeah.
And so if someone wanted to reach out to you, would they do that through your website, or would social
Absolutely.
media be better?
Yeah.
More.
I mean, depending on what it is,
Hmm.
I think if it's like therapy sort of based and wanting support through that, I prefer through my website or
Okay.
email. And I provide you with my link tree that has all of my different links. But yeah, if it's just kind of reaching out just to like say, hey, or yeah, it's not like, directly like wanting to look into like therapy, then by all means through socials and
Okay.
however, yeah,
I love it.
socials. Yeah.
Love that. And so wrapping up, because I don't want to take too much of your time, what is, this is a big one. So I always like to end with if you can give a piece of advice or leave a message to the world, what would you want that to be? What would you like to
Mm.
leave?
Approaching approaching things with curiosity. And it's not always about asking the why when it comes to thinking about other people or other things. We can ask ourselves why.
Mm,
We can ask ourselves, why, you know, why am I thinking that this might be appropriate for whoever I'm supporting, or, why 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 is it that I, go about things in a certain way? Like, I think it's a great way to like be able to just, yeah, check in with ourselves. Like, I think that's a big thing, like knowing how we are approaching things. And because we evolve and yeah, we change over time, like I think it's a great practice. Like, it's really like reflective, and it is a part of like that transformative justice.
yeah.
So when we're helping, other people, like, supporting other people in whatever ways that we are, I think just taking that time, um and yeah, like taking the time and doing it periodically, or however whatever frequency you want to, but like we can ask ourselves why. Like being
Yeah.
curious, like, yeah, and knowing that like difference is absolutely okay. So let different be different. Like it is okay,
Yeah.
like again, you could ask yourself, well, why? Like why do I think that that needs to be a certain way or whatever? um yeah.
Beautiful message. I love that. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this Unlearning podcast. I'm all about everything you said, and I just really, really value your time and honor that you took the time out of your busy day to be here with me.
Of
Thank you.
course. I honestly, it was a pleasure.
Thank
I
you.
had such a lovely time. Like
Thank
usually I
you.
feel like I really need to like prepare and go over things, but I was like, you know what? We're gonna get real.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I always
Let's
prepare.
just go
I
with the
sent you those
flow.
questions. I'm like, I don't even think, I think I asked you maybe two of them.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
look, I could keep going because this is really
exactly.
fun. But
Yeah.
we
Well,
could
we'll
always
have to
do
have you
like
on
a
again.
part two. Yeah.
Exactly. I love
So
it.
thank you, Paige.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on the Paige Trippin' podcast. I hope today's episode gave you a new perspective or a moment of, yes, I'm not alone in this. Remember, this journey of unlearning and feeling safe in your body isn't meant to be a solo trip. It's a process that requires support, guidance, and a safe community. If you're ready to move past just listening and actually start doing the deeper work of nervous system regulation, I'm here to help. My signature group coaching program, Emotional Fire Drills, is where we apply the tools we talk about here in a structured, supportive environment. We work together to help you build resilience and regulation skills you need to navigate life with more ease. If this sounds like the right next step for you, head to the link in my bio to learn more and see how we can start working together. I can't wait to connect with you next time. Remember, if you have topic suggestions, questions, or guests you'd like to have on the podcast, drop them in the comments or email me at pagetrippin1@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow the podcast, rate and review it to keep the podcast mission growing. Thank you for unlearning and growing with me, and remember to keep tripping with intention. Until next time.